Chasing comes from a vibration of lack. Anything born from lack sends out a signal that pushes what you want away. Have you noticed the more you want something, the more it slips away? The more you wait for a message, the less it comes. The more you want others to see and understand you, the more forgotten you feel. This isn't because you're unworthy or cursed. It's because your energy quietly says, I lack, I need, I'm not enough. Even if you smile or try to stay calm, your energy is more honest than your words. You don't attract with thoughts, you attract with your energy frequency. As long as you chase and cling, you push away what you want without knowing it. This isn't about desire. It's about vibration. Only when you stop seeking, stop controlling, and stop claiming lack, do you return to your center and begin to shine. Some vibrations don't need words. They change a whole room. Some people enter quietly, and all eyes turn to them, both. Others, despite trying, make people feel heavy or uneasy. Energy never lies. Jung said consciousness, both aware and unconscious, is a living magnetic field. When you emit vibrations of lack, fear, or anxiety, you signal you're not enough. The universe and those around respond to who you truly are, not just your words. If this speaks to you, take a moment to reflect on your energy. True change begins within. Subscribe for more insights on healing and presence. Your journey to your true self starts now. The true motivation beneath your actions continues to lead you, and you mistake it for destiny. Many people try to attract what they want. They read law of attraction books, practice affirmations, and imagine an ideal future. But they fail to realize that it is not what you want that is attracted, but what you are. If your foundational energy emits from fear, from a sense of lack, from insecurity about yourself, you are simply sending a clear signal. I do not have it, I am not enough. And by the law of frequency, you will attract experiences that reinforce that reality in different people, missed opportunities, relationships that mirror your self-doubt. Jung drew a clear distinction between the ego and the soul. The ego is the part that wants to control, plan, possess, and prove. The soul, on the other hand, is the part that needs no reason to be present. When you act from the ego, you always feel compelled to do something to be chosen, to be kept, to avoid loss. But when you live from the soul, you no longer need to pursue because you recognize, I am myself, and what is meant to stay will stay. In the undiscovered self, Jung said the soul demands your truth, not your loyalty to conformity. The soul does not need you to strive to please others. It needs you to have the courage to live in alignment with your inner truth. Vibrations born of lack are ultimately vibrations of fear, of abandonment, of unhealed memories of an inner child still waiting for someone to say, you are worthy, you are enough. But no one can bring that from the outside if you have not first sent that signal from within yourself. As Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. You no longer need to search. What you are seeking is not ahead, but in the frequency you emit with each moment. And if you shift that frequency from pleading to presence, from expectation to steadiness, from anxiety to trust, then you will no longer have to chase. Everything will find you, not because you did it right, but because you have become the right person. Story 1. Carla. This is the profound truth Jung wants us to understand. You do not attract by what you wish for. You attract by who you are. When your energy sends out signals of lack, waiting, and fear, of abandonment, the world outside mirrors that vibration, To see this in real life, hear Carla's story, an authentic example of what Jung called the psychic wound that cries louder than words. Carla is an intelligent, independent woman, very self-aware. At 34, she experienced a painful breakup with the man who had been her whole world. Instead of running from the pain, Carla began a healing journey reading, meditating, journaling, therapy, and rebuilding her self-esteem. Outwardly, she seemed like a woman who had overcome her past. But something puzzled her every time she started a new relationship, even a gentle one. It always followed the same pattern. The other person grew distant. The relationship became fragile, and eventually, it ended without clear reason. Clarity came not through logic, but a profound awakening. In therapy, the therapist looked her in the eyes and said, "Your energy isn't waiting for love. It's begging for confirmation." This struck the core of what Carla had missed. She hadn't truly let go. She had only been trying to prove she was worthy of love. Though her exterior changed, her inner energy clung not to a person, but to a pattern. The pattern of waiting for someone to heal her, to confirm she was enough. Carla wasn't living in the moment of new connections. She was unconsciously expecting someone to act differently so she wouldn't feel like she had failed in love again. She wasn't loving. She was waiting to be rescued. Jung said, "We don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Enlightenment comes from facing the darkness within. Carla's darkness was not her ex or her past pain, but the belief she wouldn't be whole unless chosen by someone else. That's why her healing was guided by a begging energy, not true autonomy, but disguised control. I will love myself as long as someone confirms I'm lovable. But energy doesn't work on conditions. Your vibration doesn't care about checklists or progress. It only responds to who you truly are inside. From then on, Carla's life reflected one lesson. When you demand confirmation, you emit a vibration saying, "I don't have enough." And as Jung pointed out, the universe answers who you are, not what you want. The greatest privilege is to become who you truly are. But if you still need others to confirm it, you're just a shadow chasing an image. After that therapy session, Carla didn't change her strategy to be loved. She changed her mindset. She didn't force herself to stop feeling, but learned to observe her impulses. When she noticed herself expecting too early, she didn't blame herself but asked, "Am I loving this person, or waiting for them to confirm I'm enough?" This self-awareness changed her vibration not by loving less or slower, but by loving from fullness. From then on, her energy stopped begging. She left behind the frequency of "choose me so I can be me." She chose herself. When you choose yourself, the world is no longer a place to be saved, but a place to live, share, and shine. No chasing, no waiting, no proving, just being present, because, as Jung wrote, the most terrifying thing is to accept yourself completely. It's not rejection that frightens us, but daring to accept ourselves fully. When you do, you no longer need anyone's confirmation. You become a field of fullness, where no lack remains. And that's why all you've ever sought begins to find you. Mechanism of the inner world and Jung's analysis. When Carla stopped demanding confirmation from the outside, she not only transformed her way of loving, but also entered a deeper phase. She confronted the inner mechanism truly governing her life. Because all of our experiences, whether connections, disappointments, or repeating emotional loops, originate from the psychological energy field emitted from the deepest layer of the self. In analytical psychology, Jung distinguished very clearly between desire that issues from the ego and the call of the self. When the ego longs for something not out of love, but out of emptiness, it unconsciously activates the unhealed, unintegrated parts of the mind, the parts Jung called the shadow. These parts do not vanish just because you think more positively. Instead, the more they are suppressed, the more they manipulate the energy you emit. The more you force yourself to become what you are not, the more you become an opposite shadow of yourself. Not because you are fake, but because you have not faced where desire begins, which is lack. Try stopping and thinking about yourself. Have you ever entered a room and sensed something was off about someone, even though they were smiling brightly? Have you ever heard someone claim they have moved on, but still felt a muffled sadness emanating from them? This is the phenomenon of energy, not something mystical, but a living vibration arising from a psychological mechanism. Jung believed consciousness is not only words or thoughts, but also emotionally charged images accumulated in the unconscious and broadcast outward like a frequency. In Man and His Symbols, he wrote that the psyche consists essentially of images. It is a self-regulating system that expresses itself in images. Drop a like in the comments if you have ever sensed someone's energy simply by their presence. Listen on, because what you are about to realize may change how you connect with yourself. This explains why even if you say, "I am fine," "I have let go," or "I feel confident," others will still sense it if the true vibration inside you is trembling. The ego may lie, but energy does not. The danger is when the ego acts from fear, but attaches a positive label such as "I am just trying" or "I am in love." Then the shadow becomes truly powerful. As Jung warns, the acceptance of the shadow side of our nature is a moral problem. It is the very essence of individuation. Only when you dare to look at the vibration arising from darkness, control, fear, insecurity, do you begin the journey of individuation, a journey back to the whole self where no part needs hiding. Individuation, according to Jung, is not becoming a better version of oneself, but returning to the center of the self where all the fragments inside you are seen and reunited. When you still emit a vibration born of lack, you operate from the unhealed ego. But when you live from the center, from the self, you no longer need control, persuasion, or pursuit. You simply exist with inner richness. Then you no longer emit the signal, "Come to me so that I can feel complete." But you emit a silent field, "I am myself, and I am enough." Are you living from the center of your being, or are you sending out a signal begging someone to confirm you are worthy? Share in the comments, because that awareness is the first step to shifting the vibration you carry. There is a subtle truth Jung recognized early on. Others do not love you for what you do. They are drawn by the energy field you do not realize you are radiating. If that field issues from unintegrated darkness, you will attract people who activate your wound not to punish you, but to invite you to look more deeply at what needs healing. In Man and His Symbols, Jung wrote that the self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both consciousness and the unconscious. The self is not only the center, but the totality embracing both the light and the darkness within you. So if you ever wondered why you keep meeting the same type of person, or why you feel misunderstood, even though you tried so hard, the answer may lie in the frequency you emit, not in what you think about yourself. Only when you dare to turn inward, not to hide or fix, but to integrate every part of yourself, will you enter the state Jung called the wholeness of the self, the state where you no longer need to send a begging signal, because you are transmitting the truth. Are you ready to return to the center of yourself? If so, comment a single word, present. Being fully present is what makes your energy magnetic. No need to seek, and yet you will attract everything that truly resonates with you. Story 2, Natalia. After understanding how energy emitted from a wounded ego can unconsciously attract repeating experiences, we recognize an even more important truth. Merely understanding is not liberation. The intellect may declare, "I have let go," but if the energy inside still emits a signal of clinging, you remain on the same frequency, and the world will continue to mirror that. No matter how many books you read, videos you watch, or even when you proclaim you have healed, Natalia's story provides a clear and poignant illustration of this. Natalia, now 40, is a strong, deep woman who survived a toxic relationship that nearly drained her soul. After the breakup, she embarked on a journey of rebuilding herself. She studied self-love, attended therapy, practiced meditation, journaled, and even started a small blog to share her recovery. Everyone around her saw a woman who had overcome her pain, and Natalia believed it too. She felt confident, at peace, ready for a new connection, until a man appeared. At first, Natalia maintained her balance, but just days into their initial conversations, she found herself checking her phone more often, analyzing every message, guessing what he truly thought. Each time he went silent, even a little longer, a wave of anxiety washed over her. She did not voice it or act rashly, but her mind spiraled. If he does not reply, what does that mean? Did I do something wrong? Will this end the same way as before? In a pivotal therapy session, her therapist quietly observed and said, "Your mind has let go, but your energy is still holding on." Natalia was stunned. She had never imagined she could be faking it to herself. But the truth was that all her efforts, the meditation, the sharing, the writing stemmed from a drive not to be the same as before, to guarantee that next time would differ. Deep inside, her energy still sent the old message. "I need something outside to make me feel safe, to ensure I will not be hurt again." Carl Jung wrote in the Red Book, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. No awakening occurs without passing through pain." Natalia was not wrong to believe she had let go. She had simply not reached the end of the truth. Her deepest fear was still quietly directing her energy. Unprocessed energy acts like a script that repeats in various forms. You change partners, environments, and behaviors, yet you draw experiences with the same core abandonment, misunderstanding, insufficiency. Jung called this the compulsion to repeat, the unconscious urge to relive an unresolved experience. In Psychology and Alchemy, he wrote, "The patient can only get well when he begins to see the contents of the unconscious and assimilate them into the total personality." Healing only happens when you dare to face the unconscious contents and integrate them into your whole being. The fact is, your vibration always speaks before your words. Others do not withdraw because you lack something specific, but because they unconsciously sense an energy field demanding to be filled. They feel a burden you may not even recognize that you carry. Natalia did not utter a single plea. Yet her energy field issued a clear request. "Give me certainty. Ensure I will not be hurt again." When that energy emerges, love cannot flow freely. It becomes distorted, burdened with a responsibility to heal that no one but you can bear. If you find yourself wondering, "Why do I keep attracting the same type of person?" perhaps it is time to stop questioning. The outside world is no longer the place to question. Instead, Listen to yourself and ask, what am I emitting that I dare not admit? Connection cannot grow on a foundation of energy bent by fear. The more you seek safety in others, the further you drift from your center. And the world, as Jung said, does not respond to what you want, but to what you are. Until you change that frequency, you will star in the same drama under a different title. The good news is that the moment you begin to recognize this, as Natalia did, you have already started to shift your vibration. And that alone, without anyone's confirmation, is enough to transform your entire story. The difference between control and surrender. Imagine a moment you sigh, looking at your phone, and think you will not text anymore. You are fine. Minutes later, you secretly unlock your phone, waiting for a message or a sign that proves you are still cared for. On the surface, you tell yourself you are letting go, but inside your entire nervous system is on high alert. That is not peace. That is control disguised as silence. At that intersection between mature behavior and lingering, clinging energy, a hard-to-swallow lesson begins one that leads to deep transformation. Control is not strength. It is a survival reflex of an unhealed ego. Natalia recognized this not through words, but through experiencing it again in her body, in her energy, in how she faced uncertainty. That is when the door to the core distinction between control and surrender opened, not by knowledge, but by vibrational experience. We often equate control with power, action, and doing something to ensure nothing falls apart. In truth, control is a contraction of consciousness fear wrapped in a reasonable explanation. The ego tries to manage uncertainty through analysis, speculation, intervention, and at times, feigned indifference. Jung taught that the ego seeks to control what the soul has not yet integrated. That mask of logic makes control a wound. You do not act from strength, you act from fear, unwilling to admit it. Imagine beginning a new relationship, and the other person texts less for a day. So you feel compelled to do something. You send a message first. Do you stay silent to see if they notice? Why do you ask indirect questions to guess their state of mind? None of these actions are wrong in themselves, but consider the inner state driving these behaviors. If it stems from an inability to bear uncertainty, then you are not connecting, you are controlling. Jung spoke not only about behavior, but about the motive beneath it. He wrote that when an inner situation remains unconscious, it appears outside as fate. If you fail to recognize that you are governed by fear of losing control, you will continue to attract situations that force you to control yourself until you either exhaust yourself or awaken. You either live from your center or steer everything from the fear of abandonment. Recognizing this is the first step to letting go of awareness rather than from fatigue. Surrender is not standing still, waiting for a miracle. Surrender is the strongest act of a mind at rest in itself. It is when you no longer need to force reality to follow an ego script. It is when you no longer need to check, control, steer, or edit reality, because you trust that what belongs to you arrives without effort, and what does not only brings pain when held. A vivid illustration is the healing journey of Lena. When she began a new relationship, everything felt harmonious at first, but gradually, with each time her partner became silent, Lena started analyzing every punctuation, every pause, and every word choice. She did not blame or show it outwardly, yet inside she was silently squeezing herself and her partner with expectations and worry. Inevitably, the energy between them began to withdraw. When she asked why, her partner could only say something felt heavy without any clear cause. Lena realized it was not that her partner was wrong, but that she still operated from a place of control, disguised as wanting to understand. Jung did not teach letting go as a mere technique, but as a process of inner maturity. He taught that surrender is not weakness, but the courage to stop waging war against yourself. It is when you no longer need certainty to feel safe, need another's reaction to feel loved, and no longer need control to protect yourself from abandonment. If you live in the energy of clinging to avoid loss, remember that control does not keep you safe. It only keeps you away from real living. Sometimes the most essential step is not knowing the next move, but daring to stand still and do nothing, to feel what you still cling to out of fear rather than love. You may have seen yourself controlling under the guise of seeking reassurance that you are not alone. Now you have another choice. Share the phrase, "I am letting go." If you choose to step out of control energy and into a magnetic state where life comes without being pulled, only by trust. The power of presence. But surrender does not mean you disappear. Not controlling does not mean you become passive. This brings us to a dimension few truly understand, what Carl Jung called the true center of spiritual life, the power of presence. If control is action born of fear, presence is a holistic being not arising from doing, but from an inner state of grounded calm that demands nothing from the world. It is the energy that does not chase, does not defend, does not seek affirmation. It simply is. Vibrational presence is not measured by how long you meditate each day or how many seconds you can stay silent. It is the living energy field you emit when your mind, emotions, and body no longer race toward the future or recoil into the past. It is when you are truly here, not occupied by worry, expectation, or hidden fear. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self that freedom stretches only as far as the limits of our consciousness. If you are not fully present, you still live within the unconscious sphere of control where your energy reacts instead of choosing. Think of someone you have met whose mere entrance into a room brought you comfort, safety, or renewed vitality. They may not be strikingly handsome, talkative, or eager to prove anything, yet they show up fully. That is the power of presence. No showmanship, no tactics, yet the entire space around them shifts. Because when you are present with yourself, you need nothing to make an impression. You are the impression. If you are still reading, pause for a moment. Put down your phone and close your eyes for 5 seconds. Notice whether you are here with me or if your body is seated while your mind has wandered elsewhere. This is a small test of presence. If you realize you are not fully here, you are not alone, because presence does not come from intention, it comes from practice. Jung described the process of returning to the center of the self-individuation as a journey through layer upon layer of illusion, wounds, and unconscious reflexes until nothing remains but unconditional presence. In Psychology and Alchemy, he wrote that the self is a union of opposites par excellence. Only when you stop striving to become something smarter, more likable, or more independent, can you begin to be fully present as your complete, undivided self. Daniela was stuck in a cycle of excitement and anxiety, overanalyzing messages and feeling drained. She chose radical stillness, stopping chasing and reacting, practicing presence in breath and silence. Slowly, she felt calm, no longer clinging to signs or repeating old patterns. She was drawn by grounded presence, not lack. Presence isn't a checklist. It's letting go of needing to do or become. Jung taught us to live fully as who we already are. Just be present. If this speaks to you, Comment present as a reminder you're returning home. No more chasing or controlling, just presence. Vibrational detachment means stopping reaction, observing, and facing yourself in silence. It frees you from anxiety and the need for approval. Notice if you act from lack, fear disguised in every message or pause. That's not your true self. If you constantly seek reassurance, it's anxiety, not love. The way out is to pause before acting. Listen to your quiet center and ask presence or fear. Repeat, I do not chase. I do not cling. I am present. If you wonder how to be loved, ask which part doubts my worth until unconscious becomes conscious. It controls you. Mindful living means choosing not to repeat old patterns. Stop chasing and demanding, and become what you sought. You stop sending lack or fear. You attract by who you truly are. Live aligned with your frequency. True radiance comes from clarity, not effort. Remain true and emit a silent magnetic field. What doesn't fit falls away. What's right comes to you. Return to your center. Let stillness speak. Let your energy fill the room. You don't need to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. That vibration can't be resisted. If you're ready to live authentically and heal, subscribe and keep journeying home, where chasing ends and all you need has always been inside you.